His eye or fled the ghoul next door. Hello, my Speguns. It is I, Out of Blood, the Ghoul Next Door, and welcome to another edition of Nightblade's Vampire Movie Reviews. And tonight, today, this afternoon, this morning, whenever you're watching this, I want to talk about The Velvet Vampire. Yeah, I don't actually own a copy. Okay, so this is a 1971 movie, sexploitation, exploitation, vampire film. We open with a woman walking home alone, and she gets attacked by this kind of biker guy. And she fights back, but not only does she fight back, she stabs him and then drinks his blood. All right. We then move to an art gallery that is showing all these different kind of avant-garde, hippie sort of statues, and there's a musician playing, and our female vampire spots this young couple and kind of sets her sights on the husband. She tries to seduce him. It doesn't exactly work. It almost works, but it doesn't exactly work. And then she decides to change her tactic by inviting both him and his wife to spend the weekend with her in her desert mansion, which is deserted. There's her and there's like one servant, and that's pretty much it. So as they're driving to this deserted desert mansion, they come across the last gas station for miles. And we're introduced, sort of, to a mechanic, because strangely enough, they suddenly start having problems with their vehicle the closer they get to her deserted desert mansion. So the couple get there, and our vampire offers them steak tartare. The wife says no, ew, disgusting. And then as they go back to their bedroom for the night, and the wife is like, "Oh, I feel like somebody is watching me," and lo and behold, of course, the mirror is a two-way mirror, and our vampire is watching the couple do what they do. Both the husband and the wife end up having the same odd dream, that they're lying in this four-poster bed in the middle of the desert, and our host, because they don't know yet that she's a vampire, so their host seduces them both. She starts by seducing the husband, and then she seduces the wife, sort of. The next day, like, they wake up and they kind of compare notes, and they're like, yeah, we had the same dream. Isn't that crazy? Then they go to an abandoned mind with the host, or our vampire lady there, that they don't realize is a vampire. And the wife gets scared. She almost gets run over by a random cart, one of those mining carts that mysteriously starts working on its own, even though the mine has been closed down for 50 years. Interesting. And she gets separated from the other two. And then they go hang out for a while out in the sun. The wife is sunbathing. She gets bit by a snake. And our host sucks the venom out of her leg. And then suddenly there's this connection that starts between the two of them. We go to find out that Our host, she says that her husband, she takes him to a graveyard and shows them her husband's grave. Now, mysteriously, they comment on the fact that the husband's grave, which says Carmilla, sorry, it doesn't say Carmilla, it says La Fanu, Sheraton La Fanu, who wrote Carmilla. It says La Fanu. And they comment on the fact that the gravestone says that the husband died in the 1800s. So our host gives them a really stupid kind of, but logical explanation, saying, oh, well, grave robbers, they robbed the grave and it was his great-great-grandfather's grave, so I just buried him there after they emptied it out. Plausible, I suppose, but raises a few questions for our couple. And the mechanic shows up at the house to work on a dune buggy. Yes, a dune buggy. You rarely see dune buggies in movies. Or so he's called to work on this dune buggy, which has absolutely nothing wrong with it. It was just our host's vampire, her way of getting some fresh blood. So she faked a emergency dune buggy, a fake dune buggy emergency, so she could get him alone and drink his blood. And she does, and then she kills him, and she buries him out in the graveyard. Then we see this random woman kind of show up and just go through the graveyard and start digging up bodies. We learn that she is the girlfriend of this mechanic. The one servant who is here in this deserted desert mansion. I love saying that. Deserted desert mansion. Our vampire decides to drain his blood as well. She's just to the point where I guess she can't control it anymore. She needs more and more and more and more and more blood. So she kills her one servant who she basically raised from a child. Our vampire then seduces the husband. She knows that the wife has caught them and that the wife is watching. And then there's this weird dynamic between the wife and the vampire. It's this kind of odd cat and mouse for the next little bit of the film. But then, just before they can run away, because the wife is finally convinced the husband something's not right, and the husband's like, well, it's been like 3 days and our car should have been fixed by now. They're saying it can't be fixed. They're saying that they got a phone call from the mansion, from the host, saying for the mechanics to take their time. And when he confronts her, she kills him, drains his blood, hangs him to dry like a piece of jerky. The wife finds the body, and then there's this back and forth kind of like, I know who you are, I'm going to run away, I'm going to tell the cops, blah, blah, blah. And we are suddenly following the wife as she hitches a ride. This was back when hitching rides was still safe. She hitches a ride to the nearest city. The wife, or the vampire, follows her. They're out in the middle of the day. She makes a comment earlier in the movie, the vampire, that the sunlight's not gonna totally hurt you, but at the hottest point of the day, you should stay out of it. So the vampire is now chasing the wife through the middle of town, and the wife accidentally comes across a, no pun intended, marketplace stall of crosses. It is a cross store. As the vampire chases her into this, she stops cold because of all these crosses, and for some bizarre reason that nobody bothers to question her, the wife starts handing crosses to everyone and saying she needs help. And someone's like, oh, she must be a vampire. Just like out of the blue. Okay, let's just jump to that conclusion, eh? They corner her. They actually form a circle around her with their crosses. And she is stuck right dead center, middle of town, under the hottest part of the sun. And she melts. She just melts. Like the Wizard of Oz's witch, just melts. Then our wife goes to she goes to visit a friend of hers who actually introduced her and her husband to the vampire. And he's playing it cool. It's like as if he doesn't know what's going on. At the very end, she makes a comment about the fact that he is an art collector, or an art dealer, I should say. And she asks him, well, how did you know her to begin with? And he's like, oh, well, she bought a whole bunch of pieces from me. And the wife is walking through her friend's apartment and she sees this dagger. And she comments about how it's the exact same dagger that the vampire had used. And he's like, oh, I know. There's only 5 in existence. And then he bites her. End credits. This is, oh wow. Okay, so the plot is there, but it is thin. It is such a fast-paced movie. I think it's only about 78 minutes long, if it's that. I have not seen this in about 25 years. I first saw The Velvet Vampire when I was still in high school. So we're talking 1991, 1992, so it was already 20 years old by that point. And back then, it didn't really make a whole lot, the editing, the jump cuts didn't make a whole lot of sense. But now, rewatching it all these years later, it's like, wow, okay, yeah, I get it. I get the fast pace, I get it. The acting is terrible. The main character who plays the wife, she delivers her lines in such a zombie-like monotone through the whole film. I don't know if she was supposed to be playing stupid or if she was supposed to be playing so naive, or if the actress just learned her lines that way. I don't know, but it comes across very, oh, you must be a vampire type of dry cardboard. Not to say that the other actors were a whole hell of a lot better, but the vampire herself, she does deliver her lines a little bit better, and there's a little more rhythm to her delivery. There's a few little nods to Carmilla by Sheraton Le Fanu. And this is 1971, so the whole thing about her burying her victims in the desert, she keeps saying that she can't move them. She doesn't like being in the desert, but she can't move the body of her husband because he'll crumble. And they're like, well, you keep talking about him as if he's still alive. We see a shot of the husband in the grave, and he's dead. He's dead, but he's preserved. He's kind of mummified, and she makes a comment about how she mummified him, but it doesn't make any sense. It's one of those weird kind of like, we need some dialogue here to explain something, but it's not explained very well at all. The idea then, like, she claims that the ground, there's something about the minerals in the ground, and she claims that there's a curse, and it doesn't really fit. It's almost like you're watching this and you're thinking, are they missing a reel? You literally wonder, is there 15 minutes of missing footage. I don't know. So I used to have this one. On VHS. It was a television copy, but I haven't, like I said, I haven't watched this in years because, well, my VHS died. I was pleasantly surprised to stumble upon this on Tubi the other week, and it just brought back so many memories. I say you should check this one out if you have the opportunity. If you haven't already seen it, if you like 70s kind of sexploitation, exploitation, or if you just like vampire movies, it's I can't say it's different because it's not. But there's this whole scene about the graveyard, and the entire graveyard is filled with her victims. I don't know if she needs to stay close to her victims, or if it really is something about the soil, or what's going on. It's never fully explained. You would see that kind of plot line again a few years later in The Hunger with David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve, where she keeps everybody in coffins in the attic. So, okay, my neighbors are starting to make noise, so I am going to wrap this up here and say, comment, leave me some love, subscribe if you haven't, come back often, and until next time, creeping screams.